Hey, listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and today we're talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed, and how it might be longer than Torna the Golden Country, the expansion to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Today is just a quick little bonus video. The game's coming out in a few days, so I figured I'd get my thoughts out here on this because we got some information suggesting that it might just be longer. But before we jump into that, let me point out that we are aiming to hit 25,000 subscribers by the time Tears of the Kingdom comes out on May 12th. So if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we might just make it. So earlier this week, I saw some discussion on the length of Future Redeemed, and without really giving it much thought, I was thinking, okay, it's probably going to be a little bit shorter than Torna the Golden Country, because they didn't think it was worth a physical edition. Torna the Golden Country got a physical version, and they have not announced one for Future Redeemed. Could happen later down the road, but with Torna the Golden Country, they announced it with the final trailer, and they haven't done so with Future Redeemed. But upon thinking about it more, just because there isn't a physical version, that doesn't mean it has to be the case that Future Redeemed is shorter than Torna the Golden Country. It was just my very first thought that might suggest that. But when you also consider that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 as a whole is a very grand, ambitious adventure, and they tried to go bigger with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, maybe the DLC adventure should also go bigger as well. And when we think about Torna the Golden Country, it was actually pretty expansive. It was a 20 to 40 hour adventure depending on how you played it, and it did warrant a physical version. For some people, it could be basically its own game, and that would be totally fine. For me personally, I spent a little bit over 30 hours on the game, and I checked the levels of my characters at the end game, and they were in the high 50s. And I'm not saying I rushed through the experience, but I didn't do every single little thing either. I did a lot of things, and I took my time to smell the roses and enjoy the overall experience, but I didn't do everything. I didn't 100% it. Maybe I 75%ed it. Hence why I'm somewhere in the 30-hour range and not the 40-hour range. So with the length of Torna the Golden Country in mind, and the high 50s being where I was at when I beat that game, we've seen gameplay from the Xenoblade Chronicles Japanese Twitter of Future Redeemed, and they're showing the characters in the mid-60s, which is pretty far in. So we don't know where that is exactly. We don't know if that's post-game, if that's late-game, if that's mid-game. But I think the fact that we're seeing levels this high and what appears to be depth to these characters, I think this is going to be a fairly significant game, and I do think it is suggesting that it might be bigger than Torna the Golden Country. And to further support this idea, Player Essence, who covers a lot of Nintendo RPGs, apparently has heard that Future Redeemed is going to be bigger than Torna the Golden Country. And for the reasons I already discussed, and because I think Player Essence is a pretty reliable person, I am inclined to believe that this is the case. Future Redeemed, for more people, will be a longer experience. Maybe instead of it being a 20 to 40 hour experience like Torna the Golden Country, it might end up being like a 25 to 45 hour experience. A bit longer, a handful more hours you're more likely to spend on this game, I think. And I think for a DLC adventure, that's pretty extensive. There aren't many games that exceed 20 plus hours, and for DLC, this is pretty cool. I've likened the length to these expansion adventures to Xenoblade to a similar length as a Pokemon game. Pokemon games you can beat in 20 to 40 hours, and that's what I'm kind of expecting in terms of length for Future Redeemed. Now, while I enjoy Pokemon, Xenoblade is a higher quality franchise in my opinion, and it's totally going to be worth every hour you put into the game. But those are my thoughts on Future Redeemed potentially being longer than Torna the Golden Country. Do you guys agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below, and I'm looking forward to playing this game in just a few days. This is Andre's Restart, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.